Good Yontif. So there are these two young fish, and they're swimming in the ocean, just doing their thing. And they happen to come across this older fish who's going the other way. The older fish nods at them and says, "Morning, boys. How's the water?" After exchanging pleasantries, the two young fish swim on, continue on their way, and then after a little bit, one of them looks at the other one and says, "What the hell is water?" The point of the story is that the most obvious, ubiquitous, important realities right in front of our faces and all around us are often the ones that are the hardest to see and to discuss. So why a fish story on this day of fasting? Well, the point of these days is to help us see the important realities in our lives, the things that should matter most to us, the things that should be most important in our lives. And then our tradition wants us to make a choice. Our tradition wants us to decide, to choose this day, to live our lives in a way that is consistent with these values, with these most important realities, which these things like water to a fish literally make our lives possible. I want to share a few personal stories tonight about what for me are the deepest realities, the water of my existence. Story number one, Omaha, Nebraska. I'm 9 years old. It's Sunday afternoon, and I'm excited because every Sunday my father makes rounds at the hospital, and he brings one of his kids along each week to help, and this week it's my turn. I love being in the car with him, just the two of us in his yellow Chevrolet Camaro with bucket seats, Neil Diamond on the 8-track. We talk. Sometimes he tells me stories of his childhood. It's amazing when we get to the hospital to watch him with each of his patients. He's gentle. He listens so carefully. He reassures them. And best of all, I love it when he introduces me as his assistant, the young Dr. Zweiback. Afterwards, we go to my Grandpa Joe's house. It's where we eat dinner every Sunday night, usually steaks grilled over hot coals and hickory chips, even when there's snow on the ground outside. Before dinner, Grandpa Joe puts out his delicious gehackte liver. I spread it on a Triscuit. It's heaven. Gathered around the dining room table, never in front of the television, we tell stories, we tell jokes, we argue, we laugh, sometimes we cry. We're sort of an emotional bunch. And the people who matter most to me in this world, my father and mother, my brother and sister, my grandfather, aunts and uncles and cousins, they're all there. Every week, they are present. And since it's 1978 and there are no cell phones to distract us, we're really present for each other. I'm swimming in the water of family. Story number two, Schwader Camp, 10,200 feet above sea level, halfway up the Mount Evans Road, about 60 miles west of Denver, Colorado. I'm 16 years old. My current height, about 40 pounds lighter. A strong gust of Rocky Mountain air practically knocks me over. I have a mullet. But before you judge me, remember it was 1986 and I was rocking that mullet. I gotta be honest with you. I'm a junior counselor and I'm having the summer of my life, discovering who I am and what makes me truly happy. I feel completely at home in this place, living on Jewish time, beginning and ending meals with a blessing, making prayer, spirituality, an everyday part of my life. I have a cabin full of 8 and 9-year-old boys who look up to me and who sometimes even listen to what I tell them. It's a place where our love for one another, for our Jewish tradition, for Torah, for nature, for God is so real. The way I feel in this place, I think to myself, is how I want to feel always. I'm swimming in the water of community, of nature, of spirituality. Last story, South Hill, Virginia, 2 weeks ago. I'm with two of my daughters participating in America's Journey for Justice with the NAACP, a 1,000-mile march from Selma, Alabama to Washington for a fair criminal justice system, unfettered access to the ballot box, sustainable jobs with a living wage, and equitable public education. The Central Conference of American Rabbis has joined with the NAACP on this journey, and rabbinic colleagues from all over the country are taking turns carrying a Torah scroll every step of the way. Our own Rabbi Stephen Wise was a co-founder of the NAACP. I walked for a bit near the front with a man named Middle Passage. He's 68 years old, from Colorado, a Navy veteran who fought in Korea and Vietnam. He's marched every day of the journey, always at the front. Dreadlocks, dark shades, cowboy hat, always carrying an American flag. At one point, I'm marching slightly out of formation, and Middle Passage looks at me sternly yet kindly and says, 2 by 2, young man, 2 by 2. His sense of duty, compassion, and concern for the well-being of all the participants on the march, even as he advocates for the larger goals for which we are marching, is uplifting. On September 12th, right before Rosh Hashanah, at mile 921 of the march, Middle Passage collapsed and died. And his death touches me deeply. I didn't know him well, but our short time together, participating as partners in a common cause, connects our lives. And the choice he made, his commitment, it inspires me. I'm swimming in the water of justice and empathy for the pain and struggle of others. When we reflect on the core stories of our lives, the stories that give our lives meaning, we sense the water. We come to understand more deeply the most important realities, the ultimate values that should be guiding our lives. And this is what we're supposed to be doing on these days of awe especially. It's our task to perform what our tradition calls cheshbon hanefesh, an accounting of our soul. We're supposed to look deep inside of ourselves and ask, are we living our lives in a manner that is consistent with the values we're supposed to cherish? Look, we all know that family and friends are the most important things in our lives. And yet, how often do we fail to be present, truly present, for those we love the most? And we all know that without community, we'd literally be lost. But how often do we fail to make the needs of our community a priority in our daily lives? How often do we show up for community, even when it's inconvenient, even when we're tired, even when we just don't feel like it? And we all know that nature uplifts us and inspires us, connects us with our Creator, and sustains us, literally making our lives possible. But how often do we find ourselves in nature, appreciating the miracle of this world? And how often do we make a real effort to protect the air we breathe, and the water we drink, and the soil that nourishes us? We all know, and our Jewish tradition makes this clear, that most of the blessings we enjoy come to us not because we're deserving, but because we're lucky. Not because we're so clever, but because we're standing on the shoulders of those who came before us. But how often do we commit ourselves to sharing those blessings with those who will come after us? And we all know that there are causes for which we must march, principles for which we must stand. But how often do we make the time to fight for what we believe in, even when it's inconvenient or downright hard. These days are meant to help us see the reality more clearly. They are a mirror that we hold up to our very lives. And the sound of the shofar, the prayers that we recite, all of this calls us to introspection. And more broadly, beyond this Yom Kippur, beyond this Day of Atonement, this temple helps us to see the water of our lives. What Stephen Wise stands for, what it teaches, what it celebrates, and what it memorializes, these things awaken us to the most important realities. It's what a temple is supposed to do. According to our tradition, every synagogue must have a window. A synagogue is not meant to be a cocoon that saves us from reality in some way. A temple is supposed to help us see reality more clearly. It's supposed to help us see the water of our lives and then inspire us to act out those values and change the world. Once we see the water, we have to make a choice about what ultimately we will worship. The novelist David Foster Wallace, the author of The Fish Story, with which I began, frames that choice this way. In the day-to-day trenches of adult life, there's actually no such thing as atheism. There's no such thing as not worshiping. Everybody worships. The only choice we get is what to worship. And an outstanding reason for choosing some sort of God or spiritual type being to worship is that pretty much anything else you choose to worship will eat you alive. If you worship money and things, if they are where you tap real meaning in life, then you will never have enough. Never feel you have enough. It's the truth. Worship your own body and beauty and sexual allure, and you will always feel ugly. And when time and age start showing, you will die a million deaths before they finally plant you. Worship power, you'll feel weak and afraid, and you will need ever more power over others to keep the fear at bay. Worship your intellect and being seen as smart, you'll end up feeling stupid, a fraud, always on the verge of being found out, and so on and so on. Look, the insidious thing about these forms of worship is not that they're evil or sinful, it's that they're unconscious. They are default settings. They're the kind of worship you just gradually slip into day after day, getting more and more selective about what you see and how you measure value without ever being fully aware that that's what you're doing. Wallace is right. We get to decide. In fact, we must decide what we will place above all else. What will be the ultimate reality of our lives, the water in which we will swim? And how will the choice we make shape our behavior? How will it be reflected in the way we spend our time and our money? Friends, what will we worship in the new year of 5776? Will it be family? Will it be community? Wisdom? Will it be goodness? Kindness? Will it be love? Will it be God? Our tradition knows that it's a choice, and it's why on every Yom Kippur we read from Parashat Nitzavim. We stand together this day before God, all of us, men, women, and children, strangers in our midst. And in this moment of standing, that's what the word Nitzavim means. In this moment of standing, we have to choose what we stand for. God tells us, I call heaven and earth to witness this day that I've set before you life and death, blessing and curse. Therefore, choose life. Uvacharta b'chaim, that you and your descendants may live. One commentator, Rabbi Eliezer Davidovich, asks what sounds like an obvious question. So who would choose death? What kind of choice is this, life or death? I choose life, wouldn't you? Here's the insight. It's not really a choice between life and death. It's a choice about how we will live our lives. It's a choice about what we will see, what we'll notice, what we'll pay attention to, and how we'll devote our time and our resources. This is the choice we make. We get to choose what we'll worship. We all want to live. Every creature does. Our task, our primary challenge, is to have the courage, the strength, the energy, and the commitment to choose to live our lives well. I am so grateful that this glorious tradition of ours is here to help me choose. And I'm grateful for Yom Kippur and its liturgy, the time we spend here together in contemplation. It helps me to choose. And I'm grateful for you because you help me see the water. The values that you cherish, the devotion and dedication that you display every day inspires me. In small ways and in great big illuminating ways, you inspire me. When you pick up each other's children after school and care for them as if they were your own, or when you drop off meals during an illness or show up for a Sheva Minyan, when you come early to set up or stay late to clean up, or volunteer countless hours planting a garden or planning a program. And little ones, precious children, you inspire me too. When you dream big and try to make a difference by building a lemonade stand to fight cancer, or by writing a book and raising $1 million to find a cure for your best friend's liver disorder. When you smile at the new family, making a special effort to help them feel welcome, inviting them into your home for Shabbat dinner. When you hold each other's hands in a hospital room, or hug one another tightly when the unthinkable happens. I get to see it every single day. If we can just see the water and make good choices in this new year, we'll be blessed with lives of meaning and purpose. And we'll make the world a better place, and not just for us, but for all people. As our Torah reading on Yom Kippur has it, from the woodchopper to the water drawer, for all Israel, and for the strangers in our midst, even for refugees who come from the nations of our enemies, even for them. The choices we make will shape our behavior, and then we'll live up to the highest calling of our tradition, L'taken olam b'malchut Shaddai, to heal the world in partnership with God. I'm deeply honored and incredibly excited to be on this journey with you as your new senior rabbi. This is an amazing place, and I'm so lucky to be able to help write the next chapter in the history of Stephen Wise Temple, following in the footsteps of my supportive and generous predecessors, Rabbi Zeldin and Hersher, surrounded by incredible colleagues, gifted clergy, educators, and staff. I am so blessed to be swimming in these waters of meaning and purpose with each of you. One final story. Yom Kippur, the Jewish year of 5791, 15 years from now, right here at Stephen Wise Temple. We all look pretty much the same. Except it's not even fair to contemplate it. Maybe even a little better looking, a little bit healthier, a little bit stronger. But it won't just be us here. There will be more of us, because this place is a big tent. And those who built it, some of you in this room here tonight, those of you who built this place, you opened the flaps to the tent for us. And so we shall do for others. In 5791, we're going to know each other just a little bit better, because we'll have spent more time together because we'll have shared meals together. We'll have been on a journey with one another because we'll have done mitzvahs together. And some of the kids who will chant Torah in 5791, they haven't even been born yet. But they'll grow up right here in this temple, and they'll learn in our schools. And we'll say, perhaps with a few tears in our eyes on that day, look at those kids. They're ours. Look at the mention they're becoming. It will be another story about the water of our lives, about the ultimate realities that matter most to us. It'll be a story about what we choose to worship and how that choice inspires us to make our lives better, our community stronger, and our world more whole. And so then, as now, we will choose life, uvacharta b'chaim, so that we and our children after us and their children after them will find meaning and goodness, kindness and purpose. May this always be the story of our lives.